take a look at government productivity and results. Results-oriented government programs focus on performance in exchange for granting greater discretionary decision-making powers to managers. Within an economic and political framework of scarce resources and downsizing, making optimum use of public resources is a primary concern of all public managers. Links between productivity and other aspects of management, such as budgeting, goal setting, and strategic planning, have also been stressed. Productivity and efforts to achieve it are lineal descendants of concern for scientific management and efficiency in government, yet they encompass a broader range of concerns and goals. Productivity focuses on both efficient use of and governmental resources and actual impacts of what government does. Routine urban functions such as upkeep of park facilities, repair of potholes, and maintenance of sanitation vehicles lend themselves more readily to unit cost measurement of productivity. When assessing needs, the intent is to improve deployment of resources by assessing probable needs and to ensure that resources will be available when and where they're needed most. Complicated citizen government interactions, such as applying for unemployment compensation or a business license, are now transacted online or via the U.S. Postal Service with increased efficiency at lower costs. Computer and software applications can make a noticeable difference in areas such as educational systems, unemployment compensation, and welfare to work programs. Measurement of performance, productivity, and results have been persistent concerns for all executive agencies at all levels of government. The ability to measure performance at the federal level was enhanced by the Government Performance and Results Act of 1993. Efforts to improve performance management have not been immune from partisan politics, as both political parties view with suspicion legislation to improve performance. Public awareness of increasingly limited resources to implement public policy means that productivity and results measurements continue to grow in importance. In the early 1990s, the widespread public perception was that government was failing to fulfill even its own goals, much less those of its citizens. Many small problems within bureaucracy had combined and multiplied into larger ones. Calls for reinventing government were heard, suggesting that government should give its utmost attention to serving its customers well and to try to instill an entrepreneurial spirit into many of its operations. The final report of the National Performance Review incorporated reinventing government principles and exhorted federal agencies to downsize. The goal to eliminate unnecessary regulation, focus on results, and offer customer service equal to or better than the best in business. One of its explicit goals was to give public administrators incentives and tools to manage their agencies more like the private sector. The National Partnership for Reinventing Government is a reform effort formerly known as the National Performance Review. The NPR, like its modern predecessors, targeted opportunities for waste reduction and offered hundreds of specific recommendations for managerial and technological improvement. Reform proposals were drawn from the best practices of private manufacturing successes in Japan and the United States during the previous decade and selectively converted to the public sector. Policy initiatives such as the NPR were part of a broader government reform trend in American public administration and its European counterpart, New Public Management. A contemporary criticism of the entrepreneurial paradigm is public servants do not deliver customer service, they deliver democracy. New public service is based on the view that democratic government should result from a dialogue and deliberation about shared values. Public servants are motivated by a desire to contribute to society and to respect law, community values, political norms, professional standards, and citizen interests. The NPS perspective emphasizes that when citizens are transformed into customers, the public interest might be diluted, with damaging effects on democratic governance and public administration. Some mix of these two theories has combined to create the present day operational realities of public administrators. Customer service standards are explicit standards of service quality published by federal agencies as part of reinventing government initiative. Federal executive agencies published more detailed customer service standards, and individual agencies have since established specific performance indicators. Standards were derived from customer surveys, data analysis, and employee input, and published so both customers and suppliers would be aware of mutual expectations. Past public sector efforts stressed externally imposed methods of goal setting, decision making, individual performance appraisal, inspection, and program evaluation to achieve public priorities. Achieving customer service quality without increasing costs, higher taxes, or user fees in the long term is difficult in the public sector for two reasons. One is the role played by elected politicians as the final decision makers. The other is the complex relationships among elected officials and appointed public administrators who actually implement decisions. These two groups often live in separate but overlapping worlds of public accountability, leadership, special interests, and policymaking. They must collaborate to achieve customer driven service quality improvement, which is easier said than done. All agencies have compiled customer profiles to establish standards, and the specifics are being worked out on an agency by agency basis. More importantly, the president has set that customers matter, and agencies have already achieved the goal of providing service that meets or exceeds the best in business. Application of quality improvement techniques by state and local agencies responds to citizen demands for better service quality. Many other public agencies, universities, nonprofit organizations, and service organizations are involved as well. The Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award Program was signed into law on August 20th, 1987, and led to the creation of a new public-private partnership. Principal support for the program comes from the Foundation for the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Awards. The BNQA was originally proposed to respond to global economic competition by improving the quality of American manufactured goods. Winners are required to publicly share information about quality strategies at a national conference to assist other organizations and to encourage them to become part of the national quality improvement effort. Reflecting our federal system of decentralized authority, specific projects and strategies to implement total quality management and productivity improvement differ substantially from locality to locality. Benchmarking is a quality and productivity improvement methodology that examines those organizations that are best at performing a certain process and then transplants the methods into one's own organization. Public agencies are learning from each other how to best respond to the needs of all those they serve. It's becoming more widely accepted in government and elsewhere that administrators have to make do with what they have. Responding to demands for improved services from citizens, clients, constituents, and taxpayers is a continuing challenge facing all public organizations. Implementing policies that meet standards for customer driven service quality requires changes in existing organizational structures. All public services, but especially those receiving substantial shares of revenue directly from user fees, tolls, or service charges, must provide the training, leadership, and resources necessary to initiate customer driven total quality service. Senior public officials are increasingly aware that traditional productivity enhancement efforts alone will not improve customer satisfaction. The challenge for public managers is to motivate employees towards higher levels of performance while continuing to lower costs and improving areas defined by customers needing improvement. Total quality systems is a theory based strategic option that allows public managers to reward truly exceptional individual performance, yet increase the capacity for organization wide cooperation and continuous process improvement. To sustain long term public service quality and productivity improvement initiatives, these basic changes are needed. When compared with management processes in the private sector, many governments have had problems initiating management reform. In the past, when governments have succeeded in becoming more efficient, elected legislatures have tended to reduce their budgets. Federal agencies were encouraged to become more results oriented as opposed to inputs oriented. Program managers who achieve measurable targets would be allowed to keep a portion of the profits and distribute them to their staff, like bonuses in the private sector, by way of a predetermined formula. Although there are more incentives to become customer focused and results oriented, there's still no equivalent to bottom line profit motives. Nonetheless, public managers now have a broader range of choices among various performance management strategies from which to select. Most were unavailable only a few years ago. Despite the harsh political rhetoric often accompanying calls for private or nonprofit alternatives to government services, most citizens support efforts to improve the administrative efficiency of existing public agencies. Rather than replacing government with private sector alternatives, most Americans want government services that respond to their needs and deliver more for less. Different performance management strategies are intrinsically linked to the political environment in which public policy making occurs. Public agencies are experimenting with performance measurement and management systems designed to meet public policy goals and respond to citizens' demands. The dilemma for public administrators is to determine which of many approaches best fits the varied and often contradictory systems for delivering public services in a decentralized and locally influenced government system. Government agencies struggle to find the best strategies to implement politically mandated reforms within traditional rule driven bureaucracies. Strategic needs, as well as the organizational dynamics of diverse cultural, social, and political environments, determine which theoretical models, if any, can be successfully applied. Less effort has been devoted to determining how to improve performance within the kinds of decision making environments that presently exist. Different reform models have been implemented within different existing organizational structures. Legislation and regulation have improved the management and promotion of e-government services to improve citizen access to government information as well as for other purposes. During the last several decades, many administrative practices have been established, altered, revised again, and then perhaps made routine or even discarded. However, it's far more difficult to say with certainty that when value shifts occur if they're going to be temporary or permanent in nature. Customer Relationship Management, or CRM, is an established, profit driven business strategy which helps companies better serve their customers. Customers are now viewed as active participants, partners, co creators of business value, collaborators, and co producers of personalized experiences. From a CRM perspective, the customer is seen as an individual with a unique set of interests and needs. Citizen relationship management is a strategy focusing on providing citizens timely, consistent, responsive access to government information and services using internet links. The combination of citizen relationship management and e-government promises higher service quality at lower costs through multi-channel interactions with government agencies organized around the needs of the citizen. E-government differs from traditional public service delivery in that it provides information and access to service in various ways. Under ideal circumstances, government should predict all possible service needed by the citizen and provide the needed service in an integrated way. Implementing citizen relationship management and e-government services within government organizations requires a shift in culture and a reorientation by public administrators. To become truly citizen centric, government should provide several different channels of access to information and services. If a citizen can fill out a form online, then that transaction does not take up time of a public servant who is available to serve others. There's been a tremendous increase in the use of internet and social media for government services and information. This amplifies the risk that government services will be available to some and not others, corresponding to existing inequities in society. Another related concern when examining the implementation of e government services in the public sector is the existence of the digital divide. Digital divide is the differential knowledge about available technology caused by inequity in education, income, and access to computers and the internet. Because they lack the skills and equipment necessary to access the internet, undereducated, mainly elderly, and some other citizens do not have the same opportunity to benefit from improved service via the World Wide Web. Comprehensive and well organized web portal access provides information and extensive links to all branches and levels of government for citizens, businesses, and public officials. Making government more accessible to all citizens should be combined with a concern for ensuring skills and possibilities to go online. Another core value of public administration is accountability. This is a complex concept. In its narrowest sense, it means holding elected officials accountable for their actions by some kind of external control, that is, political accountability. Reinventing government emphasizes empowering administrative leaders and executives, giving them the discretion to be creative and innovative in carrying out government policies. Accountability becomes a matter of satisfying the preferences of individual customers and government services. Differing perspectives of accountability originate from the complex relationship between the values of political and administrative systems. After all, agencies and officials have to be accountable to citizens, not customers. Both reinventing government and citizen relationship management tend to emphasize administrative values and a clear distinction between the political and administrative system. Public service is seen as a continuation of the political system and therefore representative of the same basic values. The entrepreneurial paradigm in public administration can have consequences for how we define basic political values of citizenship, participation, accountability, responsiveness, and democracy in the United States. Whereas the private sector today is influenced by customer relationship practices, a whole new market is developing for consulting companies when citizen relationship management is disseminated to the public sector. Government drivers are meeting performance and service goals at the lowest cost to taxpayers, improving quality of service and citizen satisfaction. There is a continuous need for a discussion of the role of public administration in securing both the quality and equity of government services. Progress and innovation in democracy result from good policies imposed through power struggles to develop something with a lasting effect. Circumstances and priorities shift, however, reflecting the unpredictable nature of politics and ultimately that governs the course of administrative reform. Management decisions in government are not simply choices to better utilize resources. They're rarely motivated by economic determinants alone, but by political forces as well. The proving ground for performance management reforms has dramatically changed. The performance of many U.S. public agencies is now measured in practical terms by assessing citizens whose lives have been disrupted by natural disasters or acts of terrorism. Senior public administrators are cross pressured by conflicting ideological demands and must understand the theoretical as well as the practical foundations of alternative performance management strategy. Ultimately, citizens exercising democratic freedoms and responsibilities at the ballot box will be the final judges of the success or failures of such efforts.